Hello my friends, and welcome to my weekly reading update, my bindery page, and to my little reading nook under the stairs because the weather outside today is not conducive for filming, so here you guys are going to get the inside view, I guess, of my apartment. Welcome! These weekly reading updates where I let you know what I've been reading and if I think you should check it out or whether it's not worth your time. These are something I actually used to do on TikTok, but I kind of stopped, like, I don't know, a year and a half ago, just because, like, they weren't doing super well in the algorithm. They didn't have a really strong hook and all of those kinds of things. But I've had a lot of longtime viewers say, hey, I miss your weekly reading updates. I really wish you would bring them back. So I thought bindery seemed like an ideal home for them because the videos here can be more long form. They can take a little bit longer to get to the point. For instance, this video, which has much more preamble than anything I would put on TikTok. One of my favorite things I read this week was Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the classic. I think it was published in like the 60s, right? So it's a classic sci-fi novel, a bit foundational. It's what the movie Blade Runner is based on. It's also extremely short, like a lot of classics 60s sci-fi is. This is foreshadowing about another book that I DNF'd, which you will meet very shortly. Anyway, so Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep takes place in a world in which androids have been manufactured to be indiscernible from humans, and we follow a bounty hunter who is tasked with retiring these androids when they go rogue. And what is absolutely wonderful about this book is that for the first bit in the beginning, it almost feels like a satire on noir detective novels. Philip K. Dick, I mean, his command of language is so fun. He is so playful with it. Like, some characters are said, instead of disembarking from an elevator, to disem-elevator, which is just so fun and playful. But then very quickly, this book takes a turn into the existential, to the point where I finished the book and I was just sitting there blinking, thinking about, what did I just read? So is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep worth its status as a classic of the sci-fi genre? I would say absolutely, it 100% is. I would highly recommend checking this book out. I also read A Suffragist's Guide to the Antarctic. This is historical fiction. It's YA. I received a copy gifted from Simon Teen, but they mailed it to me, no strings attached, like in exchange for an honest review. And I would say, this was a 3-star book for me. We follow our main character, who is a woman, who is the only woman on an Antarctic expedition. It's based on the story of the Endurance and Edward Shackleton. And I could not quite figure out who exactly this book was for, because the plot's pretty simple, the writing style is pretty straightforward, the characters are pretty straightforward, and all of that made the book feel to me like younger YA, and I think just also some of the ways our main character acted, it just felt younger YA to me. But there is on-page attempted sexual assault, and that to me did not feel younger YA. So keep that in mind if you decide to pick this book up, or if you decide to recommend this book to the teens in your life. I actually DNF'd Ghost Station by SF Barnes, so DNF I did not finish. I got about 90 pages in, and it was just, I was dragging myself through it. I cannot tell you how many days I spent reading this book. Like, I read almost everything else on this list in a couple of days, and this took me the rest of the week to get 90 pages in. Ostensibly, this is a horror sci-fi novel, or at least, if not horror proper, because I never got far enough in to see if it is horror proper, but it's supposed to be pretty taut and atmospheric and suspenseful, and my problem was that it just wasn't. It was just too wordy. There was just too much, both on the sentence level and on the scene level. There was just so much stuff that I felt like I was wading through to try to get to the actual story. I think that the better way to accomplish the goal of a taut horror science fiction novel would be to make the prose like half as wordy as it is. I wanted it to feel really, really terse. So, for example, Josh Mallerman's Bird Box, I think is a really good example of this. I have not seen the movie, but I have read the book, and it's an extremely slim book. I think it clocks in at about 200 pages because it wastes absolutely no words at all. I mean, the sentences, the paragraphs are just so short and to the point. And then finally, I've got A Letter to the Luminous Deep. This was an arc that I read. It says it comes out in April 2024. So by the time you're seeing this video in a couple of days, it should either be out or be out really, really soon. And I really liked this. This was 4 stars for me. Basically, it's an epistolary romance novel. So it's 2 characters writing letters to each other. But it also takes place in a fantasy world where almost all of the planet is covered in water. And so we follow our 2 main characters, who one lives below the ocean, one lives above the ocean, but one day, the 2 of them disappear. And telling you that isn't a spoiler, because there's actually a second layer to this novel where at the very beginning, we read letters from both of these main characters' siblings who are trying to piece together what happened. How did their siblings disappear? What went wrong? So reading this book was really fun because you have layer 1, which is the sibling characters sending letters to each other about like, okay, I think this might have happened. I think this might have happened. And then you have layer 2, which is the original letters of the lovers, I guess you could say, falling in love and heading towards their disappearance. And it was just really lovely and just such a fun time. Sometimes it was a bit of a slog, especially in the first half, because the characters always feel this need to justify why they're writing letters. Like there's a lot of, I guess, you know, I could just come visit you, but I'm putting this down for posterity, when of course the reason they're writing letters is just so that we can read it in a book. And I almost wished that the author had just let that contrivance be a contrivance. Like, don't bog me down with all this description of why I feel I must write this down, why I feel I must take notes and transcribe our conversation. Just let it be a little bit contrived. That, yeah, maybe there's some things that we might not actually put into a letter, but just let us take that as the premise of the novel. So, especially in the first half, a little bit of a slog, but I really enjoyed it.